morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. It's always an honor to be as ESPO in this opening session of the Greenport Conference. There are many interesting issues to be discussed today and tomorrow, and I could say something about each of them, but I will limit myself to share with you our thoughts on two issues that are high on our agenda. The first issue is climate and climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, the fact that the Paris Agreement that was signed last December will enter into force in less than 1 year tells a lot. And it also tells a lot that China and the US were ratifying very quickly, unexpectedly, rapidly this agreement. Something has to happen and everyone has to contribute. There is no time to waste, and many ports have it very high on their agenda. Why? Because ports, ports assume both this economic and sustainable responsibilities, this general interest. They are also part of a local community. If this Paris Agreement enters into force, it's clear that also the cities to which they are belonging to are, very near to, they are embedded many times in cities, that they will develop a program and that they will ask the port as well to engage. The second reason is that ports are not only loading and unloading ships, but they are also nodes of energy. So they are main entry points for energy commodities. We have seen in our latest fact-finding that ESPO has been doing, in fact, in the framework of Portopia project, that 114 ports have even more than 50% of the business, their commodity is energy. So it's clear that decarbonization will drastically change their business. And ports are also nodes of industry. Decarbonizing the industry is a must, and there's also a concern for the ports, for many ports who have these industries. And the fourth reason, and probably also an important reason, is that if the climate is changing, and it will probably change whatever we do, that ports are really literally on the first row. The rising sea levels, extreme weather conditions will certainly affect the ports in the first place and will be felt by ports and their infrastructure. What to do? As I said, standing on the sidelines is not an option for ports. We have a long tradition as ports and also within ESPO to do bottom-up work. We see that also in the fact-finding that we have been performing as ESPO, that 56% of port authorities have established energy targets. So either as for the port authority or for the whole port. 4 on 5 ports are taking measures to reduce energy consumption at port level. 7 on 10 are monitoring energy consumption of the port authority. We see that 38% of the port authorities are facilitating the production of renewable energy in the port, and 16% of the port authorities are even investing in it. The second thing we do, in December 2015, ESPO joined the Piank-led Think Climate campaign. In fact, it gathers all the waterborne operators and ports to reflect on both mitigation and adaptation to climate change. There will be a first conference in March, 27 and 28 of March, but Jan Broek, who is present here, will later on today explain more about the Think Climate campaign. The third thing is that also ESPO will put climate as the central topic of its annual conference that is being held 1st and 2nd of June in Barcelona. And then fourth, in fact, for ports, working on climate is not new, because already we have the World Ports Climate Initiative that started in 2008, and with its most known project, the Environmental Ship Index, we see that there, in only a few years, there are already more than 25 European ports who apply the Environmental Ship Index. But ladies and gentlemen, all the measures we are doing land-based, also the port initiatives that are taken, must be accompanied by initiatives at the shipping site. Shipping is not included in the Paris Agreement, unfortunately. Shipping is a global industry, and IMO is by far the best platform or the best level to do something and to have targets for reduction. But the present efforts are not good enough. That is why we consider that the MEPC meeting on 24th to 28th of October is a last chance for IMO to deliver. We need concrete steps, concrete targets must be set, and appropriate instruments must be developed. Ladies and gentlemen, the good environmental image of the whole port industry and maritime industry is at stake. So we really would like, as ESPO, to put pressure on European governments and on the EU policymakers to push IMO to make really progress in this MEPC. And this MEPC meeting is also important for another aspect, because there as well, on the agenda, they will discuss the 0.5 sulfur cap. There are efforts being made maybe to delay the 2020, the global sulfur cap from 2020 to 2025, and we are opposing that. We really think that 2020 should be kept. There is EU legislation which will oblige all in the EU, in all member states, to have the 0.5 by 2020, so we cannot create another unlevel playing field. Ladies and gentlemen, another topic that will be high on the agenda in the coming year is the review of the Waste Reception Facilities Directive. Let me be short on that, because Antonis Michai, our expert in ESPO on this issue, will be talking about that more extensively tomorrow, but just some bullet points. The discussion is always, certainly with the shipping lines, certainly with the cruise lines, on the adequacy of the waste reception facilities. And we believe we should be stopping this generalization, look at the real problems, identify the problems, use the complaint forms that are foreseen in the directive. These should be used by the users to really tackle the real issues and then see where problems can be solved. Then we also think that the contradictions will have to be tackled between, on the one hand, the Water Framework Directive, circular economy policy, and on the other hand, the international catering waste regulations. We also think that we should look at the problems upstream with the national and regional policy regarding waste, because if there are problems, what they call from the port, it's often also a problem of legislation at regional or national level, because there is in the whole waste legislation quite some room for subsidiarity, for own interpretation of rules. Ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, the challenges European ports are facing now to live up with the expectations as concerns sustainability are never seen. They are huge, and therefore I think a network like the EcoPorts network is really needed. It's like gathering people, a kind of coalition of the willing, to not just do what the law says, but really to exchange best practices, and this will be certainly needed in these days, months and years. We have to share this knowledge. There are now 100 ecoports in the network. We have also with new indicators with the SDM, meaning that also all these green elements, new elements, OPS, LNG, green shipping are added as indicators. We have a new top 10 on environmental priorities, and it will not surprise you that in this top 10, air quality is the first challenge that European ports are identifying, and energy consumption is the second challenge. And if the challenges regarding environment are very huge, it's also that for the first time, I think, certainly with the climate debate, it's something that shouldn't be tackled only, or shouldn't be only a concern of the environmental managers of the port. It's something of the whole port. The strategy of the port is at stake. And therefore we believe that even more than before, it is important that port authorities can develop their own environmental strategy and have the tools to develop a certain strategy, so that they have this autonomy to develop their own strategy and can do something and look at a specific situation. And I think that Mr. Costa has clearly explained also, for instance, the specific situation of the Port of Venice. So this will more than ever be needed for all ports in Europe. To conclude, let me thank the Port of Venice for hosting this conference, and let me also thank once again Greenport for putting this every year all together and offering this whole port community a platform to reflect amongst each other on environmental issues. Thank you very much.